What is going on, somebody like you crew? Today's podcast is incredible. We have Dr. Wendy Nickerson of the Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training on with us today. And this one's super special to me because I'm a student of Nickerson Institute. That's where I'm doing all of my mental health training, becoming my integrative health coach. And it has just taught me so many wonderful practices, so many wonderful philosophies, and has been really sharpening my tools that are in my tool belt to be the best coach I can for you. This conversation ranges from mental health to talking to spirit to talking with that past version of yourself, your inner child, and just so much more. So upcoming right here is going to be the ad for the Nickerson Institute, and then we're going to get right into it. I hope you all have an amazing and blessed day. Love you, and catch you on the next one. Are you ready to embark on a journey of holistic mental health training? The Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training could be the next transformative step on your path. Nickerson Institute's accredited 200-hour program provides the knowledge and tools you'll need to become a professional integrative mental health coach. From mind-body connections, neuropsychology, spirituality, energy psychology, and beyond. With Dr. Nickerson's guidance and support, you'll learn motivational interviewing, attunement, cognitive behavioral coaching, and trauma-informed care to truly connect with your clients so you can help them in bringing about sustainable results. In this accredited hybrid format program, you can work through the videos and core content at your own pace and engage with Dr. Nickerson and other trainees live in bi-weekly discussions and presentations. Beyond the Certified Mental Health Coach Training Program, Nickerson Institute also offers courses and programs for corporate coaching, continuing education, and personal development. Whether you're a healthcare professional, a wellness enthusiast, or someone thinking about a career in coaching, consider the Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training for the next transformative step on your path. To learn more and download the full brochure, visit www.nickersoninstitute.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Somebody Like You podcast. And I would be lying to say if this isn't one of the most excited I've ever been for my podcast. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Wendy Nickerson of the Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training on the podcast. I'm so excited because I am a student of Nickerson Institute and I'm having just one of the most unbelievable experiences. And to be able to land Dr. Wendy Nickerson herself as a podcast guest, I'm already tripping over my words. I'm so excited. Wendy, I want to give you the stage here to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you for that amazing introduction, Ben. I am the founder of Nickerson Institute of Integrative Health Training, and I'm so pleased to be able to provide integrative mental health training because after my training and working with clients for many years, a few decades, I realized that just thinking about our thoughts wasn't quite enough to help people and to help myself because I've been through the mill myself. I am absolutely not immune to mental health challenges. And it's ongoing. It's absolutely ongoing. So I created the Integrative Health Coach Training Program so more people could get access to integrative approaches. Maybe they don't have insurance, or maybe they don't have access to a psychologist or a therapist, and they would rather be with a coach because it's less intimidating for one thing. So I've basically used my own struggles in my life and tried to make lemonade out of lemons.
And I think that's so powerful because I know, in my coaching practice, I find when you're able to experience that level of empathy of understanding what people are going through, maybe not the specific thing that they're going through, whether it be a loss or a breakup or just anxiety, pain, whatever it may be, that level of empathy, and you talk about it in the course, is when you're able to relate and reflect and understand, it helps that person on the other end of the phone call and yourself almost start operating on the same frequency where healing can really begin. Um, so tell me a little bit about your journey of what did you what path did you take to, start Nickerson? Whether you were doing psychiatric or what's a little bit of your journey?
Okay. Uh, I'll go way back, Ben. I became a mom at age 17. And so I was still in school. And so I did the thing that you do when you're in Nova Scotia. You get married. You grab a guy, hang on to him, and get married. So I did that. And of course, I was still a kid. That did not work out. So I went through a divorce at age 30. And I thought, I really need to support my children. I need to support me. And so I upped my children. We uprooted and moved to a town in Nova Scotia that has a university. So they said, well, we'll let you in with precautions. We'll only let you take 3 courses. So it started there. And so I graduated with my bachelor's. Then I got my master's at the same university. And then the Florida Institute of Technology invited me to get my doctorate there. So I uprooted again and moved to Florida. And it was very challenging for me to move back to Canada afterwards, just for the weather, if nothing else. Anyway, after I graduated with my doctorate, I was gung ho on cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was the modality I was trained in. And I saw that it did work to a certain extent. However, if I realized that most people were really struggling with trauma stored in the body, cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of like, for those people, which are most people, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a heart attack, in my opinion. And so I thought, how am I going to, do I have the courage and the stamina to introduce these woo-woo strategies that help people, especially on their soul's journey? And so I did a lot of research, and I realized that, yeah, there are some things that I can integrate. So I was teaching at Cal Southern, and I still am teaching at Cal Southern University. And there was some leniency in terms of integration of mind-body connections in terms of illness and things like that. However, I mean, just things like basic things like mindfulness and nature and pet therapy was frowned upon. So I was actually out in the wilderness in Nova Scotia about 7 years ago, visiting family. And it was like a download for me. This is what you need to do. And it just felt so right. And it flowed through me. So the program wasn't something that I necessarily mustered up myself. I mean, the topics just flowed through me. The information came to me through various people. And for me, it was magical. And so that's how it all formed. And it just went from there. And I had a lot of help along the way, a lot of help.
I have a question too. One, I actually want to point out, I
Mhm.
think the acknowledging the help, I think that's so good for breaking stigma because I think we kind of grew up in a society where we all want to be self-made, and in reality no one's actually self-made. We all have a support group, we all have people that help us, mentors and all of those kind of things. So by acknowledging we have help along the way, I think that's just beautiful because we get to know that, hey, where we're going requires help, and the sooner we're able to kind of pull back that veil and start asking for the help, or I should say accepting the help,
Yeah.
is just it's a game changer. And the point I wanted to kind of touch back on is you said this download, right? And for we talk about the woo woo. Some people are like, what's a download? What's this? It's really like your intuition getting a tickle and you following it.
Yes.
And I want to ask, where did you learn to muster up that courage to listen to that gut, to that instinct and the intuition of yours?
At first, I didn't have the courage because I was a professional psychologist and they just don't talk like that. You know, there are diagnoses for people like that. what happened to me was in the year 2000. I was driving in Cocoa Village in Florida, and it was a Sunday morning, and I got this message that to stop into a boutique there, and that was it. So it opened at 11 in the morning. I went in. There were things leading up to this, but this was the major one. I went in, and so I'm looking around at the clothes, and there's a woman there. And I get another message, tell her that she needs to go to Paris. And I'm thinking, oh God, no, I am not going to tell her that. I did tell her that because I thought, well, I can leave the state if it's too far fetched. I will move. I will. Anyway, I told her, and she started crying. And she said, "Oh my God." She said, I can't believe you said that." She said, "I was born and raised in Florida, but yet I know how to speak French, and I don't know how I know how to speak French." She said, "I've actually considered moving to Louisiana because they speak French there." And she said, I just didn't know why I was gifted with knowing how to speak French, never have been exposed to it. I mean, my eyes were bugged out. I was like, "Oh my God, there's a lot more going on here than I can even realize." So that was an eye opener for me. And she said that she may go to in January, and this was in October. And I got another message that she needs to go before January. And so I told her that too. I have not been back. That's been 23 years ago. I have not been back to see if she went or not, or even if she's still working there. But it's those types of things when we get quiet. Most of the time, we don't even hear our messages because, I mean, we're, brain people. We're brain people. We're not heart people for the most part. But that's where the power is in our heart. And I mean, heart math has shown that. I mean, they've shown it over and over in the heart brain coherence strategies that they've devised. So that's how I got the courage. That's a long winded way of telling you. But from then on, for the most part, if I got a hit to do something, I did it.
I love that's where the courage comes in, and I was fortunate at such a young age, and you never know why parents say things, especially when you're a kid. You just kind
Right.
of you blindly listen, and you're just like, okay. And I think that can go one of two ways. You blindly listen to the things that maybe don't benefit you, but this my mom has always said, and I'm talking from as young as I can remember, is her saying was always trust your gut. Your gut's never gonna lie to you. Trust your gut. So I'm getting like chills like saying that right now. And I'm sitting there
Yeah.
and I was always like, okay. So from such a young age, I was taught to listen to that thing. And my mom is not a religious person, not a spiritual person. She believes in a connection. Right.
Yeah.
She believes that like there's something greater going on, but we don't have to define it. I'm just kind of along for the ride right now. And I think it's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Oh, that is
And so
beautiful. That
just
is.
no expectations, no need to figure things out. It's just one of those just here for a good time,
Yeah.
and so when she kind of just bestowed upon me, hey, trust your gut, unknowingly she gave me one of the greatest gifts you can ever give another soul is, hey, there's something communicating to you, and it's not all in this brain of yours. Like there's so much gut science now that we're just like, hey, that's like a second brain down there.
Yes. Yeah.
um, so I get curious when people tell me that they follow their intuition and gut, because for me, I don't hear things, I don't see things. It's just this overwhelming like knowing. And at first and for the longest time, I was taught that everyone else knows better. I was taught that you is almost like quiet that voice.
Yes.
So, do you when you say you get these hits or these downloads, do you audibly hear them? Do you just get an overwhelming sense of knowing? Are you one of the 5 clairs, like the clair audible, or what's that look like for you?
Yeah. For me, it's a knowing, but I get the words like a headline written across.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah, the words are written across for me. So I
So
don't
you
know
get some
what
visual.
the words are visual as a secondary way of knowing. But the primary way of knowing is that just that knowing. And Ben, you probably thought everyone else has that same sense. And they don't.
Absolutely.
It's been blocked off, you know. So I think it's important for us to remember that everyone doesn't have that. So how do you start with baby steps to give them
Mhm.
this, existential gift that they are born with?
They just because that's what I've learned, and like through my time on like TikTok, I've found such a wonderful community. Like, so my story just kind of started out as I got I don't want to be even before I got diagnosed with panic disorder. I was just having these, I'm talking awful, like 8 hour long panic attacks for
Oh,
days in a row. And it was like kind of like you're just assuming something is massively wrong with you. It can't
yes,
just be this. So
yes.
whatever, like, and so I look at that, and one of the scariest moments of my life turned me to TikTok of all places. And at the time, I was 32, just about to turn 33, and it was a place that people my age just weren't on. It was for the younger generations.
Yes.
But I was like, I just need a new place that's new to me. I can kind of just be private. And so I just kind of created this profile, and all of a sudden, a lot of this spiritual TikTok started coming to me. And I
Mm,
started. I remember working at a place, and I worked with this guy. I'll never forget. His name's Rick, and he was somebody that you just cross paths with people that, and you cross for a reason.
yeah.
And he was a big Alan Watts fan. He was into Buddhism and all this stuff that I was just kind of like, I don't really follow religion. I just think that, I like my mom, I would just say, I think I'm just kind of in the service of this great version of myself. Like, I'm not answering to a god, I'm not answering to anything. I just am in service of this best version of me that is almost all knowing, but is trying to give me like these trail of treats along the way. And
Yes.
it's my job to kind of be in service of that.
What a
Well,
visual. Trail of treats. I love that visual.
because it almost gives you this like, oh, the universe is kind of throwing some things at me. It's when I take these blinders off, like there's so much green pasture and all this stuff where I've been so focused on just what's been shiny in front of me for so
Yes.
long. And long story short is that's when I started to realize, like, through the panic disorder, anxiety disorder, and just all the transitions going on in my life, that I was introduced to this community of almost higher knowing. And of course, I'm sure everyone can relate, and that listens to this, like, you get the speculation at first. You're like, is this real?
Yeah.
I went to a medium and I did all of these things, and all of a sudden, like, I started trusting, I started believing. And what I've learned, the whole point of this long-winded story is it's the trust and the belief that has changed everything for me. It's gave me access, or like I always say, it's like dusting off the artifacts that have always been there. I just
Mhm.
now have a clearer vision and understanding of them. Where like I now feel and understand when my gut is talking. It's like, oh nope, you're being pulled. Do you have a specific moment where it's like it started? I know you talk about the Paris incident, but was there like whether it be from a childhood or growing up, there was a moment where like you were in connection with that intuition of yours?
I think, as a little girl, I just didn't have the words, um, or the experiences, and I definitely would not share it in the family and community that I grew up in. So it was such a private thing. I'm really trying to think, Ben, of a specific time. Um, Definitely around 8 years old, I knew something was different. I knew something was different, and I was always told that I was way too sensitive. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Like, how do I not be too sensitive? But to answer your question, Ben, I can't think of one specific time. It was such a gradual thing. Um, I do know that I can commune with animals. I noticed that every picture that I have of me as a little girl, I either have a dog with me in my arms or a cat. I very few pictures without an animal. So, and I still can commune with animals everywhere I move. So this, for anyone listening that can relate to this might be an eye opener for them. Everywhere I move, animals come to me, like within days. Um, uh, Cats, raccoon.
What do you interpret that as? Is it like, I know we talk there, like in the spiritual community, they talk about like spirit guides or soul families or anything. What, like, do you feel those are specific people or almost just like a specific energy that comes to you?
It feels like a specific energy. I don't think of it as specific people. Um, I will give you an example, Ben. The other night, I injured my neck. So the other night, I was lying on the couch and I was trying to soothe my neck. I had the door open that goes out to the patio. Two stray cats came in, and I watched them come in. And I see them around, they normally fight. So I was surprised that they were together. And both of them laid on my neck and purred. And I just let them do it. I mean, one was more up here and the other one was right there. And they stayed there for about an hour and a half. Now, these are like feral like cats. So, and I just, it's that type of thing. So I don't know how to answer your question if it's a person or a spirit or if it's energy or what have you. It made me a little nervous actually because I was waiting for them to attack one another at any moment, but they didn't because they were in such close proximity. So yeah, I don't know how we got off on that tangent, Ben, but that's where I.
I love that, and I almost love the point of just kind of like, that's kind of what, I don't want to say turned me off to, I'll say like religions or spiritual communities, like specific ones, is when you have to define everything, where
Yeah.
everything is this or that. That's why I was kind of asking, like, what does it feel like to you? Because I love when people, like, I'm a big Alan Watts fan. I'll listen to Alan Watts on audio as I'm falling asleep, as I'm going for runs, and it's just about being like in the present moment and just being like the observer of everything. There's no right
Yes.
or wrong. It's just, what is this to me? And I do want to kind of almost navigate a little bit towards, the programs and how you got there and how you connect that, like we talked about the woo woo, right?
Yes.
But there's such a strong connection between belief, faith, and experience to your mental health. Where did you and how did you start making that connection between mental health and, we'll call it, faith, belief, spirituality, and all of those kind of things?
Okay. Um, the people that came, my mentors that came to me, um, just came to me through either book discussion groups or, in lineups at the grocery store or what have you. And they kind of helped me open my mind. At first, I was a little bit peeved that they would say things like, Wendy, you're a psychologist, but like really pain is stored in the body and you can't talk that. So I started developing a faith. Once I started developing a faith, or at least open my mind up, because I was trained so logically, and I realized how limited that was. But what happened is once you start believing, as you said, Ben, once you started believing the group on TikTok, the reticular activating system in our brain allows us to notice persons, places, and things that substantiate our beliefs. So if we can at least open our mind up to entertain, like very slowly open the door, then we will get more confirmations and more confirmations, and the universe will support us. The universe is so incredibly amazing when we can really realize that things are happening for us, not to us. Now, you lose a lot of people along the way. That's the downside. And then you have to learn about grace and really respecting the limiting beliefs too, because the bottom line is we're all doing our best. And we don't want to fall into that judgment category because we're judging people for being judgmental.
And judging ourselves.
And judging yes. And judging ourselves. So basically, to answer your question, it's entertaining the idea that some of this stuff, that something might be going on greater than we even know. And then conducting maybe an experiment and saying, well, show me something.
Pam
Show me.
Grout, E squared.
Yes, yes, yes. Show me something. Yeah. Oh my God. But Ben, given especially right now what's going on in our culture, in the world, most people are in survival mode. They're not going to be looking for signs from a higher power. But those of us that came here as light workers and to help raise consciousness on earth, we will take that plunge because we don't have any other choice. Because we're just so miserable if we don't.
Oh my gosh.
We get panic attacks and by the way, the fact that you have experienced that and come through with such grace, Ben, is nothing short of a miracle in itself. Really, I mean, think about it. Think about during a panic attack, what is going on in the mind and the body. I mean, everything is chaos. And to be able to hone that in and get centered to a place where you can feel even relatively at peace. I mean, there is something greater going on. But again, you've taken those lemons and made lemonade because now you know. And something else that you touched on too was about listening and having empathy. And I meant to comment on that, and it was a while back. So I hope the listeners can pull that up in their minds. The other thing that I learned was all these techniques I learned as a psychologist, they were helpful, but the most helpful thing was keeping myself centered, regardless of what family issues were going on, regardless of financial issues, regardless of wars, like keeping myself centered enough that I had enough spiritual energy running through my body that I could really attune to a client and lend them my nervous system so that they could do likewise. That is what heals.
I love the way you put that. Lending them my nervous system is such a really cool painting to see. I've never thought of it that way, but that's what you're doing is you're lending an experienced nervous system to someone to help them taste it. And
Yes.
then it's like I think of that as like when you're healing through anxiety, whatever it may be, panic, all you need is that little bit of light to see it.
Yes.
And then once you know there's a path to get there, it's
Yes.
just about getting there. And lending someone your nervous system is letting them see that light.
Yes.
To be able to have the strength to start seeing this is possible. Healing is possible.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You nailed it. You nailed it. And I was never taught to take breaks between sessions. So I was just rapidly going from one client to another, never centering myself. I just didn't know it was a thing. But now that we know that emotions are actually energy in motion, of course, the prefrontal the mirror neurons are going to pick up from the other person. There will be that exchange. And if I'm giving my clients chaotic emotions that I'm internally experiencing, there's an issue with some ethics going on there that needs to be addressed.
One of the greatest things you taught me in the course And for everybody interested, let me pop it right up here if you're watching anything over at nickersoninstitute.com, is after sessions, releasing and shaking off that energy from the session, because I've always been very good at setting my intentions before the sessions, and we did it before this of I want to be in communication to my best and highest self. I want to be in communication with their best and highest self. I want them to chat, and I just kind of want to be the voice box of whatever comes through. And sometimes in the mental health coaching field, it's almost weird to I have, like I said, a couple of my friends are mediums on TikTok that I've just and I they call me a small instead of a medium, because like I like that's how I kind of feel like I coach is I'm like, I'm just like, this isn't my wisdom. I'm
Mhm.
tapping into this abundant source of wisdom, and that's coming through me. It's not like this is all bottled up in me. It's I'm just open to hearing this. And what you taught me and helped teach me, I should say, is after it, shaking that off, because I too will then I'll usually get like a half hour between sessions. I like to get a little bit of time so I can get something. But I have noticed if I do not do that, my next session is 100% a carryover,
Yes.
and the things I'm saying are maybe things I would have been saying to the other person or the
Yes.
other higher self. And I'm telling you, absolutely, like it was a game changer for me, because Wednesdays are my big day where I'll have like three, almost like my whole afternoon is just coaching calls. And that has been an absolute game changer, because I feel like I do get to reset. I'll even go into your course and I'll do like one of the 5-minute mindfulness things just to come back to ground.
Yes. Oh, that's so good, Ben. That's excellent.
Thanks to you.
Well,
um,
I so appreciate you saying that because, again, it took me decades to learn that. And I love what you said. It would just be a carryover from the previous session. Um, I remember speaking with a psychologist who was doing, it's not BetterHelp, but it was one of those what have you. She said that she was given 46 seconds between clients. And of course, she burned out. But I remember her telling me that. How can you mentally do that? 46 seconds.
so, um, a part of my story to become even a coach is when I was working in a pharmaceutical company. I was on third shift, and it was tough. And but
Mm.
they had a mental health professional in there, a wellness coach. And I just kind of knew her because my mom and dad also worked at this company. And so like I just kind of knew it, like, you should meet this lady. Her name's Joe Posada. And she has just given me so much enlightenment to just the world of seeing what I kind of wanted to do. I Our paths ended up crossing. We reached out and we got lunch, and all of a sudden we were chatting. I was telling her what I was doing, and she was telling me about these places that are hiring. And this is kind of how I got tied to you a little bit. And she goes, the only problem I see is they're all about statistics and numbers and how much call quantity you get, not so much the quality. And she goes, so I would be, if you're in it for that, just be aware of that. And so that's when I said, well, maybe if I'm going to get certified, I want to go and find something more in alignment. And I'm talking, I searched mental health coaching this, and you were top two in. And I remember we had that conversation, like, I had no, you're not paying for Google ads, you're not, it's just all word of mouth. People are saying that the connection of mental health and, spirituality, connection, faith, belief, it's all the connection to body, that limbic system of the brain and the body just connecting is so, so big. Um, and I just wanted to almost thank you for those. You showed me that, like, I'm not crazy, that I think, because a long time I was just kind of thinking for myself, I was like, I'm going at this road all by myself. Like, no one gets it. And
Mm.
then I saw you and what you put together and all of those things. And I was just kind of like, there's no better. I need to be there. And then, so all of the work you do, I want to obviously take the time to thank you, and just the amount of work and time and the effort and the team that you have around you. And like, Jeanette and just all the coaches you've trained, they're all off that healing branch from Dr. Wendy Nickerson. And
Oh,
it's almost like when we're on the calls, I see that there's this glow to people of like, we're all helping people.
yes.
Um, and I just want to know how you continue to grow the Nickerson Institute, how you continue to grow your practice, and what keeps you going?
Um, I guess, it's an internal knowing that that it is my life. I think I contracted for this before I even came into this world because at times it can be very stressful. What keeps me going is seeing people light up when they know that there's a solution to their own healing and the healing to others. When I see them get in alignment with their knowing, like I'm seeing you get in alignment with your knowing, that is so reassuring to me. um I just, I don't know, it's just who I am, a part of who I am. So in terms of what keeps me going, okay, I'm going to feel into my heart because I don't have the logical answer, because my spirit is telling me to keep going. And there have been so many coincidences that have blew my mind throughout this process. I started in 2016. I developed the program in 2016, and we keep upgrading it. And there just have been too many miracles and too many the synchronicities keep me going. That's what keeps me going.
It's those trail
Yeah.
of treats.
Trail of treats. Yes, absolutely.
And that's what your trail of treats for me, because like I said, I was doing a little bit before 2020. I'd say like 2018, 2019 is when I started doing like little life coaching stuff, where like I knew I had this gift of communication, relatability, empathy, and communication. I just felt that was something I had for myself, and I was able to relate to people very well. um, and then times get tough, you have to pay bills, you have to find other ways. And what I found is, I was like, I had an opportunity to get involved with, I was doing social media consulting, and I was working for this company as a contractor, and they wanted to bring me back. And there was a little bit of disrespect on the phone call, just in front of me. And I could feel it. And
Mm.
I was just tossing around this idea of really committing to myself and be like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. You're going to go to the mental health side of things. You're going to do this and not waste this gift. And they offered me money, and I said no. And I mean, Wendy, a week, maybe less, I found you, because I was, otherwise I don't project to go into this. So I'm like, if I'm not going to do this, I need to really double down. And then through our communications and our connections and the things we've worked through, and I was just kind of like, this is lining up perfectly for me in a way of like, whether just being able to afford the course, to do the course, to be able to work so closely with you. And it was like you say, miracles. That's how I felt. It was this trail of tree of like, well, there's no going back now, because I'm finally following the momentum. Like, I'm not getting to this point and just stopping anymore. No, now, like, that's that knowing, that feeling of you're home. And I've been looking for that feeling for a long time.
Oh my gosh, that makes my heart go pitter patter. Um, well, I like what you said. You follow the momentum, Ben, because sometimes the momentum, we feel like we're losing control of our life when the momentum carries us in a certain direction, and and we balk at it a bit. We get scared, like, and then the imposter syndrome kicks in, and all the negative beliefs that we have stored up in our brains, and all of that. So I am glad you followed that momentum, and I encourage anyone to follow their momentum. I had a bit of a download as you were speaking, and I was trying. No, this is how this happens for me. I was trying to pay attention to every piece of energy I was getting from you about what you were saying, but at the same time, I got this message: you need to let it be known. Like, I have great compassion for men's mental health. I watched my father suffer with such incredible psychological pain that is so. I might even cry here. I just that is so ingrained in my soul, and that is something that is keeping me going, but it's also a reminder of what passion I have to see men get relief from their mental health issues, and the stigma for men to be decreased, or that, it it makes such a difference for their children, for their partners. Um, and if we look at the family we chose to grow up in, we will be given major signs of what we came here to do just by
Oh, absolutely. And it's always, I even like on coaching calls, and there was a coaching note you gave me is acknowledge those emotions because they're guiding you places, right?
that.
Like feeling like when you say like you were looking for what keeps me going, when we asked that question, all of a sudden now the emotions are starting to get attached to that, like men's mental health and a lot of other things, but you can feel like that energy come up
Yeah.
speaking about men's mental health and your father. And I want to almost once again kind of give you your flowers. Talk about being in service to your father and his mental health as you gave me the opportunity to help more people by everything we're working through, right? And so being able to like, it's just you don't understand the ripple effect that you
No,
have until conversations like this happen. And by just that's how I think of when I help people, they help other people, and that's how this works. And I think I consider and I look at myself as kind of like a major player in the mental health field and a major like a major piece to it. And
yes.
you give me not only the confidence, the resources, and all of those things, but that's from you also now helping. Like I'm a branch of you helping men in mental health and in general. So I almost felt like I was called to tell you that like you're in service of your father's mental health by what you're doing, and how you're
Thank
impacting
you.
me.
Thank you. I so appreciate that, Ben. Actually, I feel his presence right now. And the hat that you have hanging on the wall in the background is very
What about
similar.
it?
Is very similar to his. The
That's my
one that he.
grandfather's hat.
Interesting. Ben, what's on the front of it?
It's actually a Phillies hat.
Okay. Okay. My
So it's our baseball team.
Okay, my father was a huge baseball fan. When he was 67, he played on the baseball teams with the 22-year-olds.
My grandfather as well. So I have a tattoo here. It's the cards for we called him Sunny 47.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so a huge baseball player. Um I don't know, I feel like I'm getting chills up and down my body. Like I feel like they're both kind of just hanging out right now, like smiling, like you knew we would show up, right? Um that is so how old was he when he was playing with the 22-year-olds?
He was 66. He actually died of lung cancer at 67. The year he was still playing with them when he was 66, the summer.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. And
That's
he
incredible.
Yeah, that was his passion. That was a major passion of his. So I don't know how he kept up with the 22-year-olds, but
I'm
um
35 and I can't do that.
and the irony is we never had a car. So he walked 10 miles before the game and then walked 10 miles back after the game to get to get to the so I'm telling you this because I want you to know the extent of the passion he had for that. So this is what we're doing. We're in vivo live showing how synchronicities connect if we're aware and open to the messages that we're getting, the goosebumps that we're getting, any senses of knowing. I can't see my father. Oh, I can smell him. My father was a fisherman. So he was kind of stinky at times. Like he would be out long lining for weeks and months at a time. Um, and when he would come in as a little girl, I remember running down the wharf to hug him, and and he would be just full of fish guts. And so he had a certain smell. Anyway, I just smelt that smell. So that's another thing. See, this is the magic of life that we forget when we're focusing on money, when we're focusing on how we look, when we're focusing on all of these superficial things.
And I
Um,
can relate to that, especially because my grandparents, my nan's still here, still with us, and we every time I walk into her house, something she actually brought up was because I'll smell that house, like I'll smell like I have one of his old milkman jackets, and sometimes I'll just open my closet and smell it just to like feel the presence because sometimes you can feel it, but sometimes you want your one of your senses to pick up on it, and that's what I'll do. And we were just having a conversation with her. I was having a conversation with her, and we were talking about how he'll show up in her dreams. And I asked, and because sometimes we get inquisitive in this world, and I'm just kind of like, "What age is he?" And it was something beautiful to me. She was like, "Late 40s, early 50s. We're not doing anything special. We're just going for a drive. We're going to a picnic." And like that is special, but it was one of those like it's
yes,
not this like it's just one of those like it's another normal day.
yeah,
And I just think about the so many ways loved ones, whether currently in the physical form or that have passed, show up in our lives. And I think I always tell, like when I'm working with someone who's grieving, I say it's just learning a new language. It's
hmm,
learning how to speak the language between you and that person. Like it took me a long time to communicate with my grandfather,
yes,
because there's no rule book to it. It's just how did they show up for you? It's those trail of treats. And yours is the smell of, well, the smell. I know I get the chills and I get the feeling and those kind of things. That is when you talked about your father and my grandfather, it was you almost saw my face if anyone's watching the recording live or the follow-up. You said the hat in the corner. I was just kind of like, what are you gonna
I
say
did
about
see.
that hat?
You looked a little scared. You looked a little scared, and I understand that. And then I thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
No,
But
I love it. I love it. He's always here. He's actually the one who made the bed and wooden cutout over
oh,
there as
really?
well. Yeah, he was a
Wow.
woodworker as well.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And it's almost like they're in another room, but it encourages us to keep our vibration as high as we can so that they can communicate with us. Um, because if we're in this dense state of survival mode all the time and they're at a very much higher vibration in consciousness, we can't connect. So that's why sometimes we can communicate with them just before we're falling asleep or just when we're waking up. When we're in a more vulnerable state of mind in
Mhm.
that sense, a higher
I
state of mind.
It's so and so I think I mentioned it to you before, but for anyone listening, there's the book Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton. And
Mm,
he's a hypnotherapist. He's done over like 7,000, he regressed over like 7,000 people in his studies. And everyone almost has the same exact regression to the spirit realm and all these things. But anyway, but one of the things that they always it's a common phrase is the spirit can't connect or communicate through a chaotic mind.
right.
um so it's learning, and through the act of just mindfulness, meditation, being present, grounding, all of those things. And I think of it just kind of along the lines of, like you said, operating. I always think of a radio station. What
Yes.
radio station am I looking to tune into?
Hmm.
Because the closer I get to a radio station, the clearer it gets. And then sometimes when I'm getting out of the lower vibrations, it starts to get a little bit more staticky back there. And
Yes.
I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm starting to tune in a little bit.
Yeah.
What am I doing to tune in? And so for myself, I want to ask you after. For me, that's meditation, being grounded, being present in my work, setting intentions with every little thing I do. With it's plugging in my microphone, getting ready for a podcast, being intentional with what I'm doing. It's like I'm plugging this microphone in to have a connection, a podcast of vulnerability, and opens and creates space for that. So, what are your methods, or which way do you find you best connect to keep raising or get to those higher vibrations?
Hmm. In all humility, I have really struggled with that lately. And so the first thing I want to say is it's not as if you get up to a high vibration and stay there. But I like that you mentioned being aware of what gets you there. What gets me there is always having trees. Like I'm facing a window with lots of big trees out there. Going to the beach does it immediately for me. Meditation, sitting still is a sitting meditation is very difficult for me. I can do it. I'm not an expert at it. So walking meditations are extremely good for me, especially if it's in nature. I mean, and especially if I'm in my bare feet.
Yes.
Those are things. I cannot watch the news. I'm very mindful of what I take in, like the hour before I'm going to sleep. It's so easy to get on TikTok and it's so addictive and take all of those different messages in and then go to sleep and think you're going to get rested. So I've actually had to take TikTok off my phone for that reason.
Smart.
We have to do things intentionally, intentionally thinking about what foods are going to make me feel the best. Intentionally remembering how you feel after you, and for me, it's ice cream. I love ice cream. So when I go down the Publix aisle and they have ice cream, especially the buy one, get one free of Ben and Jerry's, I have to remember, okay, how does that make me? How am I going to feel tomorrow? Who will I be available for? I probably won't even be available for myself if I consume that much sugar and get that much chaos going in my brain. That's been ongoing for me since a child. And I do the best I can, certainly not perfect. So I
I'm with
guess,
you.
yeah, I guess it's not as if we float through life and always are in a higher state of mind, but we can do things to get us there for extended periods of time. And that's where self-care comes in so much, because our body knows when we're in a higher vibration in terms of our health. When I'm in a denser vibration, my neck hurts more. Our body knows, our state of health depends upon at least trying to be aware of when we're in a higher vibration.
Mine's my lower back, my lower
Okay.
left back is, and so you mentioned in all humility that you've been struggling to get there a little bit, and for some reason I felt called to ask this question. It's something I always ask in my coaching calls.
Mhm.
Is as you've been, we'll say, working towards getting to higher vibrations, and what have you learned during the time of being where you're at now? Are there any lessons that came through to you?
Mhm. I've learned to be compassionate with myself because I'm realizing that I pick up on the collective consciousness. And I'm trying to figure out how not to take that on. When I lived in Arizona, I remember, and that was about 8 years ago, it was very easy to be in higher states of consciousness as I
All
was
the
hiking.
rocks
Yeah, yeah, especially
and
if
the
I went,
crystallized rocks, yeah.
yeah, yeah, but especially if I was out hiking in the mountains and stuff, um, I realized that I was very much taking on, like, if there was a major disaster coming, I could feel it. And I knew something was coming, whether it was a tsunami, fire, a flood. And as you know, we've had lots of fires and floods and major catastrophes going on in our world lately. So I realize that I am still picking up on the collective consciousness. And as I said before, everything happens for us. So I am working on figuring out as an empath how not to take that on, like to be aware of it, but not absorb that fear energy. And it's still a work in progress.
Is it okay if I offer my opinion?
Yes, please,
What
please.
if, just because I have a very similar experience. I very much feel like what lesson am I learning? How is this happening for me? So you say how to almost not let it affect you. What if it is meant to come to you and you're acting as kind of the catalyst for it? And then as it comes to you, you are the one to put out like all the love, the perspective and these kind of things. It's almost like that energy is coming to you to transmute or stop at you and then flow through you to come out the other side of it.
Ben, I am so glad you mentioned that because I went to a very incredibly advanced spiritual person when I was in Arizona and this was happening. And she taught me, she owned a metaphysical store. And she taught me, and I had forgotten about this. She taught me how to transmute that energy, um, letting it go out through the back of me in purple light, like transmuting it and seeing the purple light. And yeah, as a transmuter, I don't know, but I did do that for a while. Thank you for reminding me of that because that is possible. It seems like a lot of work though at times, but it's just like learning to drive a car. If you do it automatically, oh, there it is again. Whoosh.
And you know how to do it, and that's the kind of thing is what I'm learning to teach with myself is being just very conscious of the words I'm saying, like the words can't, the words hard, difficult, those kind of things, because those like when I'm operating lower, I'm realizing I'm starting to pay more attention to the things and say things that are much more difficult for me. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden that's where I keep operating, whereas if I'm speaking from a more optimistic and a more I don't know whether it be motivated or just place of
Knowing.
abundance,
Mm,
knowing, there it is.
yeah.
um Things are coming, I don't want to say easy to me, but I'm tapping into them as if they're not something I'm striving for. It's as if they're something I already have.
Yes.
And that's the thought I've been on really kind of for the past couple months, is not just because I've said those things, I've read those things, I connect to them, but it's different to kind of put the books down, everything down, be like, okay, now let's start adapting this. How do we start feeling this? And the one thing is that I even made like a couple of videos of it. It was one of those, what if we have absolutely everything? Like, we'll talk about like, what if you are the transmuter, right? That is what I
Mhm.
am. That is what I do. What if I already have all of those skills? They're just in my closet. I just need to find them. I'm not out searching for how to do it or who I need to speak to or I have all of these tools already. And for me, that's something that really helps is like, I'm not coming from a place of lack. I'm coming from a place of already having. It's a lot easier to find the thing you already have than to
Yes.
go out looking and not know where it is.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And we actually get practice doing that in our families. We don't even
Mhm.
know it. We probably are transmuting family energy without even knowing it as a child. And I see that in little kids doing it now. So I suspect that maybe we did that and many people do that without even realizing it. So we do have the experience and the practice and the tools. We just didn't know that's what we were doing.
We were taught to think we don't have the tools, that we need to go out, and that's where I used to always, if my mom's listening right now, she'll laugh, is I always said in school, I found it pointless. They're teaching me a bunch of things that I don't need to know. And knowing that from a young age, um, my fiance will laugh even if she's watching this, is on our very first date, our second date years ago, I said I don't believe in science. And right, it was such like this over the top comment. I was just trying to be dramatic and be like, and she was like, she's a nurse, so she very much believes in science.
Yeah.
And I she goes, what like ground do you have on this? And I go, I was told that it's just the way it is, and every year the way it is has changed. So when they would teach me a matter of fact, I was like, well, next year it just changes. Like all these things that are facts were really just theories. And then when the theories became hypothesis, and I was just kind of like, I don't. I'll see how I feel about these things instead of somebody else telling me and grading me on books. And
Yeah.
that's also a very like surreal moment of realizing you kind of as a kid have answers,
Yeah.
more answers than you're led to believe.
Yes.
You're led to believe that you don't know anything really from like ages 0 to like 4 or 5. Like you have all of the answers.
Absolutely. We do. And thank God we do, to get through that period of time in our life. It reminds me of if I lose the remote control for the TV, I'm not going out to my car to look to see if it's out in my car. Of course, and regardless of how much of an analogy that is how I remind myself that I'm not going to go out to my car to find my remote control. And yeah, to realize that we would never be put on this earth. We would never agree to come here as spirits without being given everything that we need to survive.
Oh,
For as long as we're meant to survive and live. We just wouldn't.
it's
Yes,
a
I'll
and
go to
no, and just thinking of it from that, it's a game. Really,
it's
it's a game of like the kids playing peekaboo, hide and go seek, all of these things. It's kind of like, yes, serious things happen, and we're taught what is serious and what is not, and emotions are part of the human experience. Like, of course, we're going to feel sadness, joy, grief, excitement. We're going to feel the whole spectrum. We're designed to.
yeah.
Um, but when you said, "I'm not going to search in the car for my remote control, my TV remote," I was just kind of like, that makes so much sense. We have like, why would like I have everything, like it's right here. I just need to look under a couple cushions or a pillow or the couch. Like it's here. I
Yeah.
didn't put it in my pocket and go for a drive around the block.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's an easy way to remember because it's so
Yes.
bizarre. It's so bizarre. It brings
Oh
a
my gosh. Well, Wendy, I hate to. I could talk to you for, I mean, hours and hours, and I hope I am able to have the privilege of having you on again because
I would love to.
I mean, I will certainly ask, and I would love to get more people from the institute on because they are doing such amazing things, and just to be a part of that is something that I am honored, really.
Yeah.
But at the end of all of my podcasts, I love to ask the guests, especially with you, just to kind of take a couple minutes or however long you feel to let us know what's going on, point people in the direction if you have like the institute, if you have events going on or anything like that, and just kind of as we exit, a little bit of where we can find you.
Okay. Right now, first of all, the webpage is nickersoninstitute.com. Right now, for our certified integrative mental health coach training program, till the end of August, we are offering $1,000 scholarships. So if anyone's interested, they can apply, and they will see the application for the $1,000 scholarship off of the cost of the program, because we want to get more and more people educated in integrative mental health coaching. I also have this desire for more men as yourself, Ben, to be in the program, and for men to come to you for coaching services because you've been through it. You know what it takes. You know how to guide, and you have the internal guidance to guide people in your coaching sessions. So, that too. Um, Other than that, we have lots of programs at Nickerson Institute for highly sensitive people. We have a conscious healing program. We're in the process of developing more programs and more. We also have a corporate integrative mental health coach training program for those that want to raise consciousness in corporations. So I invite anyone who's interested to go to the website, download the brochures, and just listen to your heart and see if it resonates with you. So it's not a high, we're not a high sell pressure selling type of business. It's more of an attraction type business. And if you're attracted to what you see on the website, please reach out.
Oh my God. And that's how you got me. Like I said, it was just the right time, the right place. I will never sign up for a place that I feel is trying to sell me, is trying to manipulate me. And that's something when you took, for anyone listening, I just want to kind of give you an insight on who Dr. Wendy Nickerson is to me. When I had any questions about even signing up for the course, she said, "Hey, if you'd like to jump on a quick Zoom call to answer any questions." And we chatted. I remember I was getting ready to take my fiance to the airport, and we chatted for an hour. And that was the moment I was like, I need to be a part of this. I just need to find a way to become a part of it. And I don't know if you'll ever know how much that conversation meant to me, because you put me at ease of, like I said, this is the direction I want to go. This is the person I want to associate myself with. And then it just kind of fell in line, like those trail of treats of us working together and doing things. And then all of a sudden I started meeting the people from the programs. I got to meet Jeanette. It was just kind of like, I'm getting chills talking about it,
Me
because
too.
that's
Me
just,
too.
it's just the person you are and the people you attract. So if anybody is interested and have any questions, and you listen to my podcast, I'm more than happy to answer any of the questions that are the experiences I'm having. But I wanted to just speak on Dr. Wendy Nickerson's character, because you are there for everybody. Any questions, all of the content, that all of the course documents, and the valuable feedback. It's just, I can't get enough of what I'm doing. I'm just so happy to be a part and have a role in what you are doing. So thank you for having
Well,
me.
Ben, I consider it a luxury to have you in the program. Honestly, I absolutely, absolutely, I do. So please know that I think I'm so blessed to have the team and the group, the people that come for this training. I know it's not me. I know it's something else going on. But I appreciate that. I appreciate all that you said so much. Thank you.
Hey, there's got to be a ringleader, and for the Nickerson Institute, that is you. And I think I think the conversation, like I said, I could talk to you for hours, but it was the conversation between you and Jeanette, and it was when she comes from a marketing background, and she was talking about how you were like, no, if it feels right, we'll do that. We're not going out here to sell to people. We're looking to just be ourselves, and we're looking to be authentic, and just because that will attract the people that are going to get the most and be able to give the most. And it was almost at that moment, I was like, I smiled, and I was like, I am just, for the first time, feeling like I'm so in the right place. I am so with the right people. And that trickles down from you.
I appreciate that. I know how I feel if someone tries to pressure me into buying something. Oh, that's not the energy I want.
Mhm.
Really. So thank you, Ben. I thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Well, Wendy, thank you. Thank you so much for making the time. And for everyone who tuned in the live podcast, thank you so much for hanging out. If you are not catching the live podcast, you can always catch the recordings. They will be up on Wednesday. I like to have them up around lunch or early afternoon. And I am so grateful for our guest. I am so grateful for the time, the energy, the space that we created. And Wendy, hang out for a couple minutes as we kind of close up here, and we'll go back to the waiting room. And everybody else, I love you, and I will catch you when I catch you. Have a good
Bye
one.
bye.